All right, welcome back to Hannity. Joining us now is 2016 Democratic candidate, former governor of the great state of Rhode Island, where I lived for 5 years, Lincoln Chafee. Governor, Senator, you are the first Democratic presidential candidate to come on my show. I got to thank you very much.
Well, for a Rhode Islander, of course.
I lived in Warren, Rhode Island for 5 years of my life, and I love Newport, the Black Pearl, the best clam chowder in the history of mankind. All right.
And Warren's a good town, too.
Let me ask you.
Warren's a good town, too.
Let me ask you, so much was said about the economy. Can you give me a grade for Barack Obama on the economy?
Considering what he inherited, he's got to have an A. I mean, the whole crash of the economy, it was terrible. In Rhode Island, it was one of the worst in the country. We're here in Nevada. Rhode Island, Nevada really got hit hardest on the chin with the crash of the economy. So President Obama turned it around, and we're seeing slow growth. It's tentative, but it's in the right direction.
Governor, I take issue with you, and I'll give you some facts, and I want you to respond to this. Since Obama's been president, he's now in his 7th year. He's about to enter the last year of his presidency. We now have literally 46 million Americans on food stamps, 50 million Americans in poverty, 95 million Americans out of the labor force, the lowest participation rate since the 70s. Median income since he's been president is down nearly $5,000. Health care costs this year will go up nearly 40% across the board. What part, and he will have doubled the debt, or accumulate more debt than every other president before him combined. How is any of that good?
Well, first, let's just go back. I was a Republican, and that's one of the main reasons I left the party, is they just abandoned fiscal responsibility. Tax cuts that we couldn't afford, a war we couldn't afford, a prescription drug benefit we couldn't afford, earmarks we couldn't afford. That was back when President Bush was the president. They had the Republicans had a Republican Senate, a Republican House, and they broke the bank. And now to
I actually agree with some of that criticism. Republicans went along with way too much of this.
Absolutely.
But since Obama has been president, he will accumulate more debt than every other president before him combined. He's the president. The buck stops with him, right?
Well, we're getting the people back to work. That's what I know from my state. We had one of the best drops of unemployment of any state in the country. And so that's a positive thing. People getting back to work.
Even the 95 million Americans out of the labor force?
It's slow, but it's better than what it was. That's for sure. It was bad.
All right,
People
let me ask
losing their
this.
homes to foreclosure.
Yeah.
It was bad.
We heard a lot about the 1%. This is not a quiz, but do you know what percentage of federal income tax the 1% pays?
It's high.
50%. And the
Yes,
top 10%
tonight.
And the top 10% pay about 80%. The bottom 50%, what percentage of the federal income tax bill do you think they pay?
Yeah, but the point is that the wealthy is still doing just fine.
Zero.
The wealthy is still doing just fine, despite the facts that you just say. The wealthy are doing just fine. The 1% are doing fine. So there's
then
more
that
money
raises
to
the
be
question.
had there because it's in the wealthy's best interest to have a strong middle class.
Listen, I started out my adult life with no money. When I lived in Rhode Island, I had zero. I had $200 in the Old Stone Bank. And I have the bank statement, Senator, Governor, to prove it. All right, so tell me, out of every,
I know what that's like too.
Out of every dollar that a rich person makes, what percent would you say is fair that should go to government, state government, federal government, property taxes, income taxes, sales taxes? At what point do you say enough is enough? Government has taken enough. Is it 50 cents out of every dollar, 80 cents out of every dollar? What? Give me a number.
Well, you've gone all over the range there. You've included sales tax and everything in there. You look at other countries and what they do and the strength of their middle class. That's what you want in any community.
Okay, so
is a
what's
strong
fair?
Middle class. And
when all's said and done, and a rich person pays all of his taxes, out of every dollar he makes, how much should he be allowed to keep?
And what's your definition of a rich person? Like a billionaire?
Well, no, to the top 5% of wage earners.
Okay, so we're talking about over 500,000?
Yeah.
No, probably even over 200,000.
Okay.
So it depends. What are we talking? Maybe 60%?
So you think they should be able to keep 40 cents out of every dollar?
Well, we have to pin this down a little closer. My tax proposal is for those making over $750,000, they'll pay 45%. That's my tax proposal.
But then they also have a state
those
income
making
tax
over
and property taxes.
That's right.
And then it ends up being 75
That's
cents
right.
of every dollar goes to government. Do you think that's fair?
Well, not every state has income tax.
Well, all right, New York does. New York has 9.9%.
So you add that to the 45.
So that's 55. Then you got property taxes, sales taxes, hidden taxes.
Yep.
So maybe if you're
Yes, but
lucky, you
that's
get to
over
keep like 40 cents out of every dollar. Hang on. I gotta.
No, wait a sec. No, just to be clear, that's over 750,000.
Hang on. Let me just throw
That's
my
over
money away.
$250,000.
Give it to you. I'll give it to the government. Hand it over. Why should I work? All right, Governor Chafee, I do appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much.
Build the middle class. That's the secret.
Appreciate it. Thank you.